next one is something near and dear to me. That's why I put it in front of the Scary County supervisors as well as several other towns have done it. So if you don't mind, I'd like to read this.
Good, I was going to say, I don't think I have that one.
Resolution in opposition to New York State action restricting Second Amendment rights.
Found it.
All right, you want to read it?
Oh, you can.
Okay. Whereas the town of Colesville has a long and proud tradition of staunchly supporting the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution, and whereas Colesville residents and visitors have demonstrated a long history of safe and lawful firearm ownership, and whereas Governor Hochul recently signed New York State legislation S.51001 and A.41001, which makes obtaining and retaining a concealed carry gun permit an overly lengthy, burdensome, and expensive process which excludes requiring citizens to divulge their personal social media accounts absent limitations of search and privacy. And whereas among the more onerous provisions is that the right to carry and possess a firearm is now a felony for any individual who has a valid concealed carry permit to bring a handgun into any New York State park, house of worship, restaurants, where residents, businesses, and municipalities operate, live, work, socialize, worship, and whereas all elected officials in New York State, including Governor Hochul, take an oath of office to uphold the Constitution, and that this recent legislation will prove to be a flagrant violation of our constitutional rights, which seeks to disarm our residents. And whereas the Colesville Town Board considers this law to be an unconstitutional infringement of the Second Amendment right for law-abiding citizens to bear arms, an overt infringement on freedom and liberty in New York State, devoid of common sense, and while doing nothing to alleviate the problems of crime and illegal firearms. Resolved that the Colesville Town Board opposes concealed carry law S.5001 hyphen or slash whatever, A4.1001 as being unduly burdensome to those individuals lawfully eligible to possess and carry a concealed firearm. And as such, calls upon the New York State legislature to repeal S&A as contrary to the constitutionally protected right to keep and bear arms. And be it further resolved that the Colesville Town Board calls upon all other municipalities and counties in New York State and the American Civil Liberties Union, the American Center for Law and Justice, and all advocates who claim to protect freedom and liberty in the United States to immediately challenge this law in court as it is clearly unconstitutional. Be it further resolved that the Colesville Town Clerk shall forward copies of this resolution to Governor Hochul, State Senator Peter Overacker, Assemblyman Christopher Tague, and the New York State Association of Towns. I feel very strongly about that, and I can tell you
You could tell the way you read it.
And this passed the Board of Supervisors 16-0. This has been introduced in several other towns in Schoharie County, and every one of those were unanimous. So I'm hoping that we would be unanimous, because I really believe that this is contrary to the way most people in Colesville think. And
I have a question. Is that something that should be possibly open for somewhat of a vote for the people of Colesville?
a vote?
Well, just in that you're going to send this lengthy verbiage as an opposition, speaking on behalf of everybody, and I understand you're the supervisor, but that is pretty strongly worded in opposition against the laws of New York State. So, I don't know, that's kind of speaking for everyone, which as a supervisor you speak for the town, but that's talking about our personal freedoms and taking control of our personal freedoms. I think that other people in town should be able to say whether or not they're inclusive of what you're saying there. It's kind of harsh writing.
Well, the members sitting at this table were elected to represent the people of Colesville, and if they don't like what we're doing, they can take matters into their own hands every 2 years.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just, And we're not taking matters into our own. The state took matters into their own hands. And by the way, half the stuff that they've already done is in court now and being held up because it's unconstitutional. You don't have a right to go look at people's Facebook pages because they're applying for a gun permit. That's bullshit. Then you can see I'm passionate about it. But it
Well, I
is.
disagree with you there because people show psychological problems on Facebook. I have seen people post that they
Doesn't
were
matter.
going to
You
do
have to-
horrific things to
All right.
people.
Well,
So why should you not
to
be
have
able
a
to use that?
referendum, whether we should disagree with this or not, that comes every 2 years. And if it's important enough to you to feel that somebody shouldn't do this, but
Well,
by
I
the
know
way,
people that have been directly affected by it, so, you know, I think that it's open for debate. Shouldn't be concrete.
I think that the town overwhelmingly would feel that this is an appropriate statement of our feelings.
And that's mainly because the town overwhelmingly voted against the current governor who just won the election.
What's that got to do with the price of tea in China?
I'm just simply saying everybody is on one side versus the other,
Well,
but there
whatever.
are plenty of people that feel that safety is more important than.
Then your constitutional rights.
First off, I think the Second Amendment is misinterpreted by most of the people that proudly present
Wait a
it.
minute.
No.
I'm a lifetime NRA guy, and I just think it's important.
Dial it down.
I just think it's important that everybody have a say, that it not just be one.
So that everybody have a say that everything that we pass or we comment on. We took an oath to uphold the Constitution.
Well,
And we
isn't this
believe
going
that
against the New York
Constitution-
Constitution?
Yes.
Isn't this going against the New York Constitution, what you're saying, the
Absolutely.
proposing
Not the
Congress
New
bill
York
there?
Constitution, the federal Constitution. Absolutely.
I'm all for upholding the Second Amendment, I just think we have to be
Yeah, I know, with every kind of
cautious.
string attached to it, so it's gutted and it means nothing.
It's not true.
And that's what the governor even said she would do.
Safety is paramount, that's all I
Above all else, even your constitutional rights.
Safety is paramount.
You didn't answer the question.
My constitutional rights I exercise very freely, thank
You
you.
do? Okay. We gotta take a vote on this.
I need it second.
I'll second it.
Councilman Fancher,
Aye.
Supervisor Federice,
Aye.
Councilwoman Matthijs,
Aye.
Councilman Crowden,
Aye.
Councilman Smith.